Ooh, another horror cast, another one with ghosts. Ooh. Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is the Drunk Duck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Baines, Pitface, and Tanserine. Hi guys, hi everybody. Hi. Hello. We're going to be talking about our grade, well, not really fears. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. Not our greatest fears, but just fears in general, and horror in general, and why it's horror, and why fears are universal, where they come from, why they're scary, all that kind of thing. But before we get into that, well, I have to introduce the featured comic, and the featured comic was something Quai did, and it was called Paladins. So take it away, Quai, with Paladins.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Paladins by Valen SC, and it is rated E for everyone. Many years ago, a battle between two nations began and ended thanks to the leader's children. A star symbol called an elpis was created to symbolize the alliance between the two nations. However, after the battle, a darkness emerged, forcing the queen to make a sacrifice and use her last bit of strength to send the paladins into the future so they could live in a world without war. Fast forward to the present day, the story focuses on the lives of Trent, a jokester, prankster, and big fan of paladins, Trent's twin brother Taylor, who is a serious nerd, Bethany, a new girl at their school, and Sasha, a girl whose appetite will never be satiated. Trent appears to have taken an instant liking to Bethany on her first day. Is the future really as peaceful as imagined? This comic is drawn in a black and white manga style, but it can be read left to right. It is a collaboration comic between James Nasili, who is the writer, and House of Imagi, who is the art. Unleash the great power of the Elpis and read Paladins by Valen SC, rated E.
And that was the featured comic, Quai talking about that, and the brilliant artist who does Paladins, I should say. Brilliant artist and brilliant writer, and Valen SC, I'm told. So anyway, Quai would have told you all about that and that amazing comic that has been featured. Okay, so next up, we have the featured music that Gummalus has given us. So this week he has given us Tales of Sherlock, which is an A-rated comic. So, look at it if you dare. Right, so my little spiel for Tales of Sherlock. A whacker, a slow, effortlessly pacing, cool, building up, step by step, with a little flourish and a dance every so often. This is music to strut your fine stuff to. Slip on your snakeskin boots, your purple velour suit with flared legs, straighten your wide-brim purple hat with a long orange pheasant feather, adjust your big blue bow tie, and pull out your fluffy shirt cuffs. Get out on the town. Okay, take it away, Gumwallace, with Tales of Schlock. That was the music from Gumwallace. Thank you so much for that, Gumwallace. Tales of Schlock. So tell us, guys, what are your greatest fears, or what are some of your fears. One of my fears is that the Quackcast doesn't work out. That something goes wrong with it. But you never expect that to happen. So what about you guys? Guys, hello. Oh my God! I tell you what, the Quackcast didn't work. Yes. Only my voice got recorded, and no one else. I only just discovered that. So, what I'm going to do instead is reissue Quackcast 99, which was from 2012, I think, which was the first Quackcast the first Halloween cast that had Ozone Ocean, Baines, Tanserine, and Pitface all together, the gang, when we first got together. Em wasn't there yet. Em was meant to be on this Quackcast, but no, she didn't end up. It was all a dream, no all ghosts in my head. Anyway, so I'm going to take you back to 2012 and Quackcast number 99, when the team is all together, all fresh. So here we go. Take it away, guys.
Stop it with your Vegemite. You stop it now.
Hello, and welcome to Quackcast number 99.
Wow.
99, that's how long we've been going. Years, decades.
What's the time?
99. We'll party like it's 1999. And today we have many people on the Quackcast. There's me, Ozone Ocean.
Yay.
Come on. Someone else.
Him and all of his multiple personalities. That's everybody, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is Baines and our special guests, of course, once again, the genius writer and artist of many, many books and comics and many other things. Smoker of cigars, Queen of Iceland,
She wrote a movie,
Tanserine.
too.
No, I don't think I'm Queen of
Oh,
Iceland.
that's right. That just might be something I imagined. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's right. You wrote a screenplay, also, right?
Yeah, I have actually.
Yes.
I have.
Anyway,
I have. I'm very, very happy about it. So don't get me
That's
started
awesome.
on it. I won't shut up.
Okay, well, if we run out of things to say, we will get you started, and then we can fill up the hour.
And we
Anyway, it's Tanserine, everybody.
yes.
Just to be clear who we're talking to.
Hello.
Yay!
And it's not many
And,
books, just 4.
Okay. Oh,
Just
don't.
be accurate, you know.
Okay, gotcha. And Vegemite is tasty. Got it. Okay, all the facts. Anyway, and our other guest, the sort of queen of horror and action and drama, brilliant artist.
That's
Fantastic.
horror, not horror.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of we're having another guest next week. That's somebody else. My notes are mixed up. I apologize. Anyway, awesome creator of Putrid Meat and others. Co-creator with Tanserine of what's it called again?
Brave Resistance.
Brave Resistance. I'm sorry. Brave Resistance. It's Pitface, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, say hello.
Thank you. Hello. Hello.
And there we go.
We are assembled.
Avengers.
Now we just got to figure out what we're going to do with ourselves now that we are assembled.
Quackcast to tears. Oh!
Oh.
Our powers become multiple, manifold, mighty. No one can stand against us.
Tremble! Quackcast über alles.
My God.
So we're just going to be chatting about general stuff and horror and not horror, as Bones was very eager to talk about for some reason. I don't know. That's just him. So
Is that ever just him?
It was my nickname in high school. I'm very attached to that phrase.
So horror will be our subject, I think, and just anything else we feel like talking about. But we should probably get into the features, I think.
All right.
Features.
Features.
So there's those were the features, and they were good. I hope School Monkey remembered to record hers this week, so I don't have to record another comedy version.
Right. Yeah, that was really funny last week. That you doing School Monkey's voice. I could barely listen to the content of the review. I was just laughing at the voice.
Oh, I missed that.
Don't spoil it for me either, because I was planning to listen to that after this.
She listens to the Quacks religiously, so you can rest assured that she's planning on listening to that. You have not been
Is that
following
true?
episodes.
What was that, Tens?
I said that I like the Quackcasts.
Yeah. That's wow. Really? That's kind of surprising.
We are breaking up, aren't we?
No, I don't think so. I'm just hearing a couple voices
No?
at the
Okay.
same time.
I think it's just like when we all try to say something at once, which will happen. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like we're going to take turns talking. That's what civilized people do.
No, we're not about that. Not at all.
No.
No. Never.
I'll just be laughing over the top of everyone, ruining it.
Flamboyantly, right? Like,
Ha 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 ha.
and of course you have to sit there and like twirl your mustache while you do it too.
Exactly, and it gets in the way of the microphone. If there's this, that's me twirling my mustache.
Oh my god.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yes. Anyway, so Halloween is coming up. What are you guys going to do for Halloween? Anything in your comics?
Actually, it's not a bad idea. Actually, we should think of something, Tange.
What, dress up our characters? Or something. I don't know.
Oh, we had written
That
that
would be
one
hilarious.
about Hunter and the Greek kids at one time, remember? And him corrupting them all into Indians and running amok around Pindos.
Yeah. We had written a scene like that. Yeah, that's true. That was fun. But
That was.
oh god.
And then Hunter went on a sugar hop. And there were...
The thing is that I never remember exactly when Halloween is, because it is not a Greek holiday. So I know about it very well, because I went to this American school, so we did have Halloween, but I never remember when it is.
Same with me. I just never remember when it's on at all. Ben's has been telling me about it for about 3 months or something. I just can't.
Veins. We can't let this happen, man.
I know, it's so like strange to think of people who don't sort of automatically know when Halloween is, like, because it doesn't really occur to me anyway. You know, I just like Halloween's like one of my favorite times of year. I get really excited for some reason, but it's October 31st.
Aha.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me now. Yeah, Baines told me about this again and again and again. Yeah, it just flies out the other side of my pumpkin head.
Well, when you say telling you about it, I'm just reciting a date, so it's not really compelling enough for you to remember, probably. I haven't really given you any exciting, like, interesting details about Halloween, and I don't really know any, so yeah, there you go.
It's just fun. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
There's been some interesting things to come out of Halloween. You know what, Tange and Ozone, I think you guys should be the flag bearers and kick it off big time this year in your own countries. And everybody will
idea.
just follow examples. right?
That would be awesome. Yeah, it would be fantastic. So on October 31st in the evening, get dressed up in like a ghost costume or a Lone Ranger outfit. Ozone, I know you have one. You got one around the house, I'm sure. And start going.
I can't really do that. I mean, I will get arrested by riot police. I'll be
Dress up as a riot police, Tange.
What?
There's an idea.
What?
Dress
I
up
said
as
then
a
dress
riot
up as
police.
riot police.
Yeah,
I
good
will
idea.
be arrested again for impersonating riot police.
Oh man. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
we have I don't know, extenuating circumstances over here, but it would be an experience.
Yeah.
Dress up as Angela Merkel, and then everybody will fate you and say how great you are. All of
but then
Greece
I
will
will
celebrate
have to
you.
worry I will have to worry about the rest of the Greeks.
Yeah.
Well, so Halloween has been one of these times, sort of traditionally, because I think most webcomics that come out of the US, I think Halloween has been one of these traditional webcomic holidays, really, when people sort of change their webcomics and have their characters dressed up as superheroes or whatever. It's been really sort of weirdly mirrored in the webcomic world as one of these big webcomic events. So, I mean, yeah, that's a real reason to talk about it on a Quackcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, who can't love Halloween? There's so many fun things that you can do with it, really. And artistically, too, you know? I mean, we are a community of artists, and some people, I mean, you know, some people go and just buy a costume from a store, but there are some people that really put the oomph into it, you know? They make their own costumes, and some of them are just bombastic, man. And the things people do, it's great.
Well, I've heard recently in the United States, the fashion is for women to sort of dress in really slutty costumes for Halloween. It's become the thing for some reason.
Oh, yeah. It can be like 30 degrees out, and you've got chicks walking around in like mini skirts and stuff. And
where did this come from? So that has been this whole new thing. So adult women dressing like schoolgirls and all that kind of stuff.
well, it's probably the only night that you can do it and like not have somebody try to buy you off the street.
Right.
So it's one of those things. It's like a carnival. It's become the only night in the year when you can sort of behave that way. I see. So it gives people license to act completely differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting aspect. And in webcomics, it's just given us license just to be weird, I suppose, and deviate from your storyline. I think it's more people do that more so than Easter or Christmas or any other time.
Yeah, it's a fun. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say to Deirdre that it is, of course, a very good chance to allow her Hackett his real colors.
Oh, it would be, actually.
Yeah.
A
Lolita costume or something. Oh my God!
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'll be a schoolgirl.
Okay.
He'll be dressed as a
Yeah, he would be,
sexy nurse or
unfortunately.
something.
It would be a spoiler of some sort. Maybe we shouldn't do that.
I don't think it would be so much of a spoiler that it would ruin anything else we have planned. I think it would be. Yeah, I think we should do it, especially since he won himself an award not too long ago. I think he should be able to celebrate a little bit. What do you think, Danj?
Okay. We will, you close our eyes and just do it.
Yeah.
It's an award-winning comic, and it deserves an award-winning performance.
Careful what you wish for, though.
And another thing that's traditionally been done on Halloween is for webcomics is crossovers.
Yeah.
So characters dressing up like other characters or characters appearing. So would we have Bones appear in Brave Resistance, or perhaps one of the Without Moonlight characters showing up? Maybe. Well, they'd be more likely to show up, I think. But
I don't think they would be like really transforming. I mean, they Without Moonlight characters, at least.
yeah,
Would still be the same setting.
they wouldn't stand out as much as Bones would.
No.
Yeah.
Well, let's try that, Tange. How about maybe we'll both make a little strip, and Bones will come to World War II Greece, and then your characters will come to Septica.
Yeah, because this is something we have never done before. I mean,
Oh, never.
yeah.
So you have done this before? I haven't noticed when I've been reading your works.
Well, it's because none of it's online.
Oh, sneaky! So this is in the secret, like the DVD director's commentary stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you guys just
Yeah, go ahead.
you just keep it to yourselves. It's not online anywhere.
Yep.
Oh wow.
This is the slash fiction stuff. This is where Bones gets it on.
I don't know who wants to read that, but
No. What?
that would be really cool if they. Go ahead, Tan. Sorry.
No, please.
No, it's your turn.
It is my turn. Well, anyway, what I was going to say is that we have written many things with these characters that we don't publicize. But you may be disappointed, considering, where the imagination usually goes. Then again, you may not. I don't know.
So you've got all these comic strips of Bones and the Brave Resistance characters and Without Moonlight characters sort of, I don't know, making a sandwich in the kitchen and going down to the post office and paying bills and stuff like that. So what you're saying is really mundane.
Well, like they're more scripts in a sense. Like we just kind of write them on the fly as exercises, we call them, just to see what would happen if you take your character and you throw it into a different situation than what you've been writing them in, and it helps you kind of expand on them a little bit, and it's fun.
Wow,
Oh man, that's really cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really.
it helps you know the character so well that you pretty much know how he or she would react in any situation, like as much as you could have that in a living person, maybe.
Yeah.
So actually, Bones has been in World War II, and he has been many things during World War II.
He's killed Hitler like 5 times, I think. Stolen Ava Braun or something.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I know you've sort of drawn him with a, I don't know, army helmet and grenades and all that kind of stuff, I think, because you got your, like that figurine you were using and all that. Am I right there or wrong?
Yeah. Well, I don't. What figure? Oh, yeah. The the little art figurine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's an interesting technique. It's so you're writing a character from all different angles, like as if when people do those studies of characters from all different angles, so they can draw them from, I don't know, any position. So you've written them from any position, basically, which is a really, really interesting thing to do. I've never sort of considered that.
You should try it. Maybe we'll invite them in on our fun sometimes, Tan. I think you could make.
They can handle it. I mean.
Yeah. They might never want to talk to us again afterwards.
But yeah, the whole idea is to throw them in a situation or a setting that they are not designed for. So, for example, Bones has been in the World War II settings, but he has also been in, I mean, as far back as ancient Egypt, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah.
Wow.
He's
And,
timeless.
and the Jurassic period as well.
He chased my dinosaurs. That was a fun one.
It was really fun.
So Bones is a Time Lord now.
Oh,
Secrets are
God.
coming out.
I
In a
guess
sense,
so.
I think so.
Man, I would love to see those specials, where you move. He's such an explosive kind of character. Like, that seems great, like to move him around into these different environments, and especially the World War II special where there's 5 stories and he kills Hitler in every single one of the stories. I'd buy that, man. That'd be great.
Yeah. Who wouldn't, right?
We could do that.
No, it'd be awesome. Sincerely, that'd be really cool. I think it's really cool.
He works very well with Basil, actually.
Yeah, they have this
Believe it
weird
or not.
energy. It's really weird.
Oh, goodness me. So, yeah, well, Pinky and Bones have already done their own little crossover.
Oh, they have, but you know what? It might be fun to even go into that a little bit more. I would.
Yeah.
It would
Was
be.
that finished? I read that comic, but I didn't think it was finished, actually.
Further adventures.
Wasn't. I expected more
Well,
from both of them.
They both ended up pretty naked in the end, so I don't know.
They did.
Gotta find some
Yeah.
clothes. The quest for the clothes. And I've seen Pinky as Cleopatra, done by the marvelous Pit Face.
Thank you.
It was an excellent piece of art there. So yeah, we've had sort of aspects. Now we've got to have Baines's magnificent characters.
Yes,
I've
we have
put,
to.
Yes.
Penelope, the
Yeah,
massive,
yeah, she's a
giant,
great character.
powerful Penelope. I want to see what she does. The shy, retiring, but bulldozer-like Penelope.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I've actually done cameos from other webcomics on Drunk Duck. They're usually like it's set in a video store, which video stores are things that used to exist. But they,
Once upon a
I
time,
put like
way.
yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, I put posters and sort of shout outs to other webcomics in the in the background usually, or hanging on the wall or whatever. And there's actually I'm doing a Bones cameo on the next page,
Ooh,
so I'll drop you a line.
Really? Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
I owe you, man.
yeah. And a really badly drawn Bones. That's what it'll be.
He's a fun character to draw. I used
He
to
is.
do cameos as secret sort of cameos as part of my comic as I went along. Sort of, I just slipped characters in there as it's just a fun little thing, and wouldn't even mention it. They just appear there. So
Yeah.
it's a fun thing to do that, and it's a really kind of social thing to do, and it builds links between comics as you sort of link to someone else, and they link to you, and that's the way you sort of get ahead. So it's a fantastic idea to do.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Those are cool.
Yeah, and Halloween's the perfect excuse for people to do that. So I encourage everybody to do that.
Now,
All the
is that a
listeners.
widespread
All
webcomic
three of our
phenomenon? That's right. All of you start crossing over.
Actually, no, all of our listeners are actually on the Quackcast tonight. Bugger, there's no one out there. I think it is a
Oops.
widespread thing. Yeah, even the
I haven't
big name
noticed that.
webcomics have always done it.
Huh.
I've been following them for years.
Yeah.
Something going.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Crossover, but don't go to the light.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, okay. So, yeah, I was going to bring. Speaking of that, I was going to bring up Halloween. Traditionally, in a sort of superstitious way, I think is thought to be a time when the boundaries between our world and the sort of night world or the other side, whatever you consider that to be, the supernatural or whatever, those barriers are at their thinnest. So, supernatural beasties can cross over and we can see them. And that's sort of I think, one of the traditional kind of ideas of, yeah.
Oh, really? So that's when you finally come into the real world, Baines, and start to sort of walk around and
Briefly.
get a real body.
Briefly, yeah.
He missed the train back last year.
It's been a tough year. Yeah, I've been stuck here. It's not good.
The other side of the mirror.
Exactly.
I think actually that this kind of special holiday exists in most cultures, but just in different times. If it really holds for Halloween as well, which I think it does. I mean, in Greece, this is actually Christmas time.
Yeah, I've heard that too with a lot of the northern cultures, like in Norway and places like that. It's also Christmas when the sort of the ancestor spirits, or you commune with the spirits of the dead. So yeah, that's quite weird. That. I wonder if it's related.
Well, in Greece, it's not exactly with the spirits of the dead. It's that the evil spirits come out, and they're supposed to roam the earth for a week or so, and you are supposed to do certain things so that they won't come into your house and do mischief. This originated during the medieval times in Greece, and then they go back down and await next year to foil you with the same tricks.
So you put I don't know, like an evil eye or something on the house, light incense. What would you do?
Well, you use a sieve. The one, a kitchen sieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you put it upside down in the fireplace or in the entrance of your house, because they are supposed to be creatures that are compulsive and they want to count the holes, but they can't count, supposedly, more than they can't count beyond number 3, because number 3 is the Holy Trinity, and they will be, I don't know, burned or something, and so they have to count in binary code or something, and it takes all night. So by the time they finish counting the little holes, it's daylight, and they have to go back. And then next night they start all over again.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, they're not very smart.
I like that. It's poetic. What was that, Pitface?
I said, see, we just give them candy and then they go away.
Yeah, slightly different.
Kinder over there, yeah. So
Yeah.
the Greeks are burning them to death with clever tricks, and
Yes. We just, count on their lack of arithmetic skills.
That's right.
uh,
Oh, there you go.
that's clever. It reminds me of some of the English mythology with the fairies and the clever things they'd do, like folding clothes inside out and all that kind of stuff, because the compulsive behaviour of the unseelie people, or whatever they're called, and they have to...
Yeah, exactly. Same vein, basically.
Oh, wow. So that's where the fairies came from. Greece, after they were fed up with being burnt in
I don't know about that, because I might be accused of stuff. I don't know. I mean, the mythology, the Greek mythology that originated, I mean, after the Hellenistic times, when we had, the Byzantium times and then the Turkish occupation and everything, is completely different, because it's all humanoid monsters, and basically it's a vampire mythology. Everybody is out for your blood, more or less, or your soul, and we don't really have critters as mythological creatures. They are all they look like humans, but you don't know if they are humanoid.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I see. So they're secretly taking human form, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and they are pretty sinister because they don't reveal that they are not human, supposedly, until they eat you.
Greeks
And
are
at that
delicious, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yes, with
Yeah, that olive
with
oil.
a few olives and
Yeah, that really helps.
some feta cheese.
Out of Uzo.
Well, this is interesting. So now we can talk about the particular beasties from each country. So what is in America, Pitface? What is in your region?
Well, I think it
Indian
originally.
spirits?
Yes, as Indians, no. That'd be cool, actually. That'd be really cool. That'd be frightening, man. That'd be awesome, though. Actually, I think it started more with the witches. And see, I'm afraid to go into any detail because I used to know about it, but I've forgotten so much. But I think it originally started with the witches and you know, when the whole the trials and all that were going on, things like that.
Yeah.
And
Salem and all that stuff.
yeah, that's what I was getting at. And I don't know, somehow it got into kids going door to door and dressing up and give them candy and they leave. I think it's pretty close to what Tange was talking about, you know, to appease the spirits and whatnot, or the witches in this case, but that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really see the sort of metaphor of that, right? Like, sort of kids are dressing up traditionally in like scary costumes or whatever, whether it's witches or spirits or evil, you know, beings of some kind. And they're coming to your, and it's sort of a metaphor of, you know, sort of keeping the spirits away. And that's neat.
I thought also it's an idea of making fun of them or sending them up. I don't know.
Huh.
Maybe.
That's something to consider.
Now, I think some mythology says, or some pseudo-history says, that Halloween has a relationship to the Celtic New Year, or some Celtic celebration called Samhain. And that's... And they mention this in this horror movie, Halloween.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a connection. But I don't know if that's true or if that's made up or not. So
I think it's true. I think that was the ancient sort of version of Halloween. It was some kind of a Go ahead.
All right, so that's your Halloween stuff and your Halloween beasties. But what scary ghost beasties have you got in the States? You know, not necessarily witches, but what scary monsters have you got?
Oh, let's see. We got your zombies, your run of the mill stuff like that. But we also have Bigfoot, and we have you know, things that run around in the woods and tear young couples apart, and
so chupacabras and stuff like that, or
chupacabras, I think, are more South American. Like, that's still kind of like a cult thing here, and I guess Bigfoot is too, to an extent. But like,
those bunny rabbits with antlers.
Huh?
The bunny rabbits with antlers are called jackalopes. That's it, jackalopes.
Yeah, that's the jackalopes, man. I thought those were real until I was like 7. But I want to see a jackalope, Mom. You can't see a jackalope. But yeah, that's you kind of run of the mill stuff here in the States. I would have to think about it if there's anything more specific. I mean, the Wolfman is kind of old. So is Frankenstein and all that stuff. But now I guess it's more bordering on more like the Saw type of stuff, like psychos and serial killers and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we've got pop culture monsters blended with mythological ones.
Yeah.
I get you. So, Baines, what about scary Canada with the haunted
Yeah, well,
Mounties?
we don't we don't have native spirits because we're the only place in the world that still has natives. So
Oh,
Snap.
that wasn't a slap at
Ouch.
anybody. That's nothing to do with us. It's a long time ago. But I don't know. Pitface took Bigfoot, so I don't know. I got nothing.
we can share Bigfoot.
All right, fair enough. Rocky Mountains, the Vancouver Wilderness, yeah, he goes back and forth.
And you can't bring up any scary native monsters?
I
Like
could
scary
if I Googled
bear
it, but
beasts
probably-
or ghost bears or something? I don't know.
Well, actually, if you're talking about native monsters, this isn't one that's popular at all in American culture, but I did read up about a few of them some years ago when I was doing my research on Indians and stuff, Native Americans that we talked about last time. And there was this one really cool one that I read about, and I really liked it because of the visualization. And I can't remember, I think it came from the Iroquois, but I'm not sure. But it was basically this giant discombobulated head that would come at you in the woods, and it had this long hair that would kind of help it go through the trees, and it would find you and it would chase you. And I forgot the name of it. It was really neat. And there was a story where it chased this woman and she outdid it through some kind of trickery. But see, I wish I had
brilliant.
something to read about it, because yeah, the imagery from a lot of these old stories is just, you can't beat it, man.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
striking. Yeah, I think that's
So
why
that,
they continue.
that reminds me of another one from Greece, if I can say something.
Yeah.
So there is this monster in Greek folklore that is called the lamia. Lamia.
Oh, I know
And-
that one.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
No,
so
you go on.
It's this woman who lives in Wales, and she is really white in her complexion, and she has this stringy, long black hair, and she only comes out at night, and she is very, very alluring and beautiful, but during the night, because if she gets hit by moonlight, she becomes really ugly, and then she gets angry that you have seen her being so ugly, and she eats you. She eats you if you are a kid. If you are a man, she's going to suck the blood out of you and then drown you in the well. Okay, so that's the lamia.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Female vampire water beast. So you could actually have someone pretending to do that in Without Moonlight
Yeah,
to scare
hey.
them.
that'd be great.
Not really. I mean, I don't think that would really scare any Greek, of modernity, like a lamia. They would probably shoot, you know.
I've actually had dates that have gone worse than that, but we'll talk about that another time.
You can have like a Greek version of Evil Dead, Tange.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
That would be great.
I could, but then you would have to use not the lamia. You'd have to use other critters that we have. I mean, not critters. I mean humanoid critters. And then that would be these flying women again. I mean, now that I think of it, most of the monsters are female. They guessed
So
me
it's
before.
very true to life that way.
So these girls, these are. I mean, there is no translation in English. I mean, the closest is fairy, but they are not fairies. They are nereides, aerica, we call them. And these girls set up camp near a street, a path that is at the fringe of a forest. And if a guy happens to walk by, they treat him to a nice, lunch or dinner. But then the moment the guy eats this thing, he becomes enchanted, and he wants to stay with the lady. And by the time they are finished with him, he is a very, very old man. I mean, he's like, although his age is still young, he looks like he's 90 years old or something. They have sucked all the energy in every way there is from this guy. And I mean, completely exhausted him. And if he crosses and if he tries to escape, they become really violent and they tear him to pieces.
Oh,
like,
so
yeah,
like Maenads from the Greek myth. They tear men to pieces. The Maenads, the wild women from the Oracle, I think.
We call them Maenads.
Maenads.
Yeah, they are Menades. I understand what you were referring to. Yeah, could be from them actually. Now that you say, these Nereides could be from these, priestesses of Bacchus.
Wow, so there could possibly be connection. Now I was also thinking of eating the food and staying and forgetting. That was like a Circe, I think, in the Odyssey.
Yeah.
The sorceress.
Yeah.
Except she turned all his crew into pigs or something, didn't she?
Yes.
Mean lady.
Well, we have mean ladies over here in Greece.
So I can't think of many from Australia except the Quinkans, who are Aboriginal creatures who are really tall and thin and black and steal away children.
Cool.
So they're quite friendly with big, long, floppy ears. And the Bunyip, of course, who is this ghostly, howling monster dragon thing that no one's ever seen, who lives in the deep, deep bush, lurking at waterholes and things like that. Probably based on crocodiles or something. I'm not sure.
Huh.
And drop bears, which we tell tourists about. They're like carnivorous koalas that fall out of the trees on your head and eat you.
Wow.
Oh wow!
And we advise people to cover their heads with Vegemite or
Wouldn't that make them, more tempted to drop on you?
hopefully.
That's what you tell someone to do that you don't like. Oh yeah, man. Oh, they won't touch you if you put Vegemite on your head. You'll be fine.
Coat your face in it. So yeah, we're not sort of that big on spiritual things. Well, ghosty, ghouly monsters. I think the most prominent kind of thing is an idea of I don't know, alienness in the bush, because the bush in Australia is an extremely horrible, inhospitable place that can kill you very easily. So it's just the whole idea of that is a kind of ghostly beastie in itself. It's like it has a personality. So, and we have a lot of our mythology is based around personalizing that. There's this movie called Wolf Creek or something like this, based on this. It's based around this real story of this guy who was murdering backpackers who were traveling around the outback, but it's made a bit more fantastic, of course, because it's a horror movie. But the whole idea behind that, though, is again personalizing the evil and alienness and dangerousness of the outback and the strangeness, because most people in Australia live in the city. Hardly anybody lives out in the bush, so that's what it's for us. I was thinking that in Canada maybe you've got something similar with the great white North
You'd
Sea.
think so because Canada's very much the same. We all live on sort of this narrow strip on the southern part of Canada, and then there's this huge kind of frozen wasteland above us,
But you
But
don't.
but I don't. Not that I know of. And yeah, I don't think so. I mean, there's the Yeti. There's the many ghost stories about travelers and stuff like that who are usually the stories I hear, like travelers are helped. It's very Canadian.
Very polite.
That's wonderful.
You get lost and like a monster or a ghost helps you find your way back to camp. Those are like all the Canadians.
This is really friendly.
Yeah, very friendly mythology. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great country.
Yeah.
So we've all got very different characters to our countries and our ghosts and our myths.
There's a lake monster I looked up called Ogopogo. Like
I've heard of that, actually.
Yeah, it's like a Loch Ness monster type of creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
See,
wow.
those are kind of cool, actually. I love the lake and the water mythologies. There's just something more chilling to them. You know what I mean? It's slippery and
Yeah.
slimy.
Yeah.
It's slippery and slimy. It's very much like alien to us, right? Sea life tends to be very different.
Yeah, and drowning is such a horrible thing, and it happens to children, so it's a great idea for a myth to scare them away from water, because that's a lot of children used to die by drowning, so that's probably where that
Absolutely.
comes from.
Actually,
Yeah,
when me and my family we had some friends, and we still have friends, but we used to go and camp up in Michigan on the state of Michigan on Lake Michigan. And for those of you who don't know, that's that big ass lake to the north. And that has its own
She means me.
mythology. I mean everybody. But being such a big body of water, that has had its fair amount of ghost stories and whatnot. And the place where we used to camp, there was this story of this red hand that would come up out of the lake at midnight. And and it wasn't any more complex than that, at least not that I knew of, we haven't been back there for years, but I remember that used to scare the hell out of me when I was a kid. Like, me and my friends, we would actually stay up and watch to see if the hand would come up. And our dad loved scaring us with it too. Like, oh, you better not go over there. The hand's gonna get you. We'd be like, ah!
Oh man. I have a now. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say. Actually, I won't get into it. It's a big, long thing. What were you gonna say, Baines?
Well, when you told that story just now about the red hand, I got like a little bit of a chill hearing it, and I don't know if it's just me or just certain people or whatever, but I sort of have a theory that horror stories like that, like where there's so many unanswered questions, it's just like this red hand that comes out of the water, but you don't know anything else about it. You don't know why. You don't know what it does. You don't know. It's just all unanswered questions. That to me tends to be like the scarier stuff that you sort of remember for.
Absolutely. Like, where does this come from?
Yeah. And what does it do? And your childlike imagination can just kind of run, like you and your friends when you were a kid, your imagination can just run wild. Like, what is it going to do? Is it under me? Is it going to grab me? And then you have no clue. What is it going to do, It's
Absolutely.
just like, it's very scary.
What was the monster that was under your bed, Baines? No, seriously, I'm asking. I'm going to share
I don't-
mine.
I used to have, okay, well, I'll tell you a little story. I'll try to keep it fast. When I was a kid, I used to go to my grandmother's house quite often. I had these aunts or aunties, if you will, that were, a few years older than me. One of them sent me up to the attic to get a board game. So I go up to the attic. I'm a kid. I'm about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old or so. And the attic, you would open this door to get into the attic, this dark attic. So anyway, she sent me up there, and I opened the door, and she had propped up this giant plastic doll. And it was taller than me. This thing was huge. She had set it up against the door, so when I opened the door, it fell right on me, and it scared me so badly because I was afraid of that attic to begin with. And for years afterward, the monster under my bed and my recurring nightmares I had like several times a week were about giant monster dolls. These sort of pasty faced,
Man, I can't imagine.
Oh, horrifying. I can still picture the doll from my nightmares in my head all these years later, And it was terrifying, just terrifying. And, yeah. So that was my monster. What was yours? Did you have one?
Mine was Ramses too, actually. No, seriously. My family used to subscribe to the National Geographic magazine, and there was this volume where they had this photograph of Ramses, of the mummy of the king, with his hands crossed over his chest, and you could see the fingers, the really bony, dead fingers of this guy that still managed to my imagination, to look so very much alive. And well, ever since I would picture him being in that prone position under my bed, and he would just move his hands so that they would crawl up the sides of my bed and try to grab me and yank me under the bed. And that was, for at least a year or two, extremely terrifying for me. And I had to actually desensitize myself, because I remember one morning when I woke up, I told myself that this is ridiculous. You can't continue doing this. I was something like 9 years old, and I said, this stops now. And I forced myself to sleep with my hand hanging off the bed.
Oh God!
As a bear. Yeah. until I forgot. I didn't forget about it, but I stopped caring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my monster.
Wow.
Wow. Good for you. Holy, you're courageous.
I don't know. I mean, I was terrified of that guy.
Really
terrified. I mean, I could imagine him, grinning under my bed, and his head was under the bed, like his head was under my head, and he was just waiting to grab me and suck on my energy to revamp himself or something. Like that mythology I was talking about.
Yeah.
But that is traditional corpse mythology. I mean, that's what they all do. Traditionally what they would do, steal energy and from the living. So
yeah,
I like it.
There's something deeply scary about that concept,
There is. For me, I was terrified of things lurking in the dark holes in the drain, or dark sort of like holes in vents up high on walls and stuff like that. Like there was some kind of creature peering out behind, just waiting to crawl out like a spider from behind those dark holes, and you could never really see in, so you don't really know what's in there in the darkness. So that was what I was deathly afraid of. Any room with that in there.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
Was it specifically spiders? Was it spiders?
Not spiders, just
particularly?
some creature crawling out from there like a spider. Do you know what I mean?
Spider-like entity, but
Yeah.
screwed up enough not to be a spider.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, see, kids come up with some brutal things, and it's based, I think, a lot about the environment around you, you know, when you stay up at night or you can't get to sleep and you're staring at, you know, whatever it is, whether it be a vent or, you know, a lot of these things that we've mentioned, you see before you go to sleep. You know, the dark is what does it. But you know, it's funny. All four of us have had different experiences, because mine, I used to scare the hell out of myself when I was a kid. I still do, incidentally. But I just have a baseball bat now. But when I was a kid, I remember there was a time frame when I was so scared of my room. I would refuse to sleep up there. And it seemed like a long time, maybe like a year or so, that I just refused to sleep up in my room. If I would be put up in my room, I would wake up and I would get the courage to come back downstairs. And what would happen was, I would wake up in the night and I had a room by myself, and my closet, I had this wooden closet, and I would hear scratching that would start from the top of the closet and go all the way down. And that's how I remembered it anyway. And it would go, and it scared the hell out of me. So I would go downstairs. And incidentally, when I started sleeping on the couch downstairs, then I started believing that Freddy Krueger lived behind my couch, so that didn't help much either. It got progressively worse until I manned up and decided to start sleeping upstairs again. But when I found that nothing came and ate me. But it was between that and dinosaur dreams, which I still have to this day, of like T-Rexes that pop out of nowhere and chase me. It gets weird, man. Like, those get horrible. Like, I've had ones that are as simple as, like, I'll walk out of a room, you know, and I'll be unsuspecting. I'll be on the way to the bathroom. All of a sudden, a T-Rex will pop up out of nowhere and chase me. And then it'll be ones like that, or it'll be ones with a storyline, like, there's a city with a yellow T-Rex god that lives under it. It needs sacrifices every day at 3, and then it gets loose and it hates everything, so it just eats everything out of malice. And like, that one even had like transvestites. I have no idea where that came from.
It sounds like a Warren Ellis comic or something. I don't know.
Yes, it was. Oh my god, it was. But then, like, and still to this very day, and it was because I watched Jurassic Park when I was a kid, and I loved it. I loved Jurassic Park. But, like, we watched it when it came into the theater, and, like, ever since then, man, still to this day, they pop up. It scared the crap out of me.
Oh, my God. T-Rex dreams.
It's horrible. And then the raptors come.
Yeah, they're even scarier. They're so fast.
They are.
You tend
And
to
actually,
find...
because they are smaller, I think they are scarier.
Yeah, they're
than
more in
the
proportion,
big
that's the
ones.
thing. Because the T-Rex has his great, big, huge, knotty head and his tiny little arms, so he's also a bit
Oh, that
funny.
doesn't matter when he's, like, eating you. Have you ever smelled T-Rex breath? You don't smell T-Rex breath.
Oh,
Yeah, he might not be a good upright bass player, but he can still like eat you really well.
I think in my dreams I used to have vampires until in my dreams I mentally dressed them up as Bela Lugosi in his vampire costume, and then they were just automatically funny because there's nothing scary about Bela Lugosi.
That's true.
With his widow's peak and high collar and evening clothes.
Oh, good evening.
Exactly.
Right.
So that worked for me. Just making an absolute fool of my fear. So yeah, that was my technique. I think the only thing that I really have in nightmares now that lasts is the old powerlessness. You know, the stealing the voice, the stealing the movement, all that kind of stuff. But you can't personalize that, unfortunately. It's just that horrible thing where the dream world acts against you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that can be really really bad when you experience it.
That reminds me of the only things I can think about like that in like real horror mythology is when you have those houses that come alive and start doing awful things like bleeding through the walls or
Oh yeah.
turning TVs on. Actually, that's what I had some strange kind of mysterious nightmare things about when, years and years ago. It's like you wake up in the middle of the night and you think you're really awake, but everything's in a strange twilight. And you try and turn the switches on for the lights, and they don't go on for some reason. And then the TV is just on static. So you go up to the TV and you try and turn it off or change a channel, and nothing. Every channel is just static, and you turn it off and it's still on and it won't go off, and you can't turn the TV off and it stays on. And that's just horrifying because everything's weird, nothing works right, and that sense of otherness is just
what you're talking about, man. I've had those too. Like not exactly like that. Like I can't interact with them as well, but like I've had ones. I haven't had them for a long time, thank God. But I remember I've had ones where, for example, I was sleeping over at one of my friend's house when I was still in school, and went to bed, and in my dream I woke up, and everything in the room was exactly what it was like before I went to sleep. The pillows, the blankets, the things on the walls, everything. Yeah. Except my friend, whose house I was staying over, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, and she was looking at me, but she had this long black hair. She did in real life. And it was down over her face, and she had these big teeth on her lower jaw that were sticking up, and she was just staring at me. And then I fell back. Yes, it was so frightening. Apparently, I fell back asleep, and then I woke back up. I woke up for real, and everything was still just like that in the room, but she was asleep. Everything was
my God.
It was. I was like, what just happened,
That's unbelievable. Wow, that's amazing.
And it's terrible when even if you do really wake up, you don't know if you really wake up, or you think you wake up and you just go into another dream and everything just gets weird again.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't get out of it.
And that makes you wonder, or it makes me wonder anyway. Like, are you seeing something that's there in some sense? I don't know. It's just creepy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have never had, the weird house thing. Somehow, I guess it doesn't connect really with me. But what I have had is this same experience of everything being the same, and not realizing that I'm dreaming actually. And the house is surrounded by these really tall and wispy dark figures that have circled the house, and they are staring into the house, and they can see me just like I can see them, although there should be walls and that they shouldn't be visible. And I just know that they are the devil's minions, and they are looking at me, and I'm looking back at them, and I know that the door is going to open at some point. And it's just this standoff full of energy, clashing energy. And I know that I'm going to have to face all of them by myself. And as soon as the door opens, okay, and there is no sound, everything is very quiet, very still, and it's just this standoff, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that is intimidating.
Yeah. So
you
many.
remember I dreamt about those too when I was at your house last summer. Remember?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
it
God.
might be real, guys.
And it was about the same feeling. I mean, it didn't end very nicely, but it was. I remember that was weird, man.
Yeah.
I kid you guys not. I dreamt about those things too when I was at her house. Well,
Yeah.
I can only assume that they were the same. I dreamt about black figures like that too, that were intimidating and trying to somewhat stare you down or challenge you. You know, that
Yeah.
was weird.
So it's just
Oh
the
my
energy
God.
of the situation and the potentiality that's there. You know, the confrontation is building, and the fear and the anticipation. So that's what creates the
The
tension,
good
the
thing
feeling.
is that as I grew older, I felt that I was going to win more and more. So that doesn't actually. I haven't had this dream for a very long time now, but I still remember it, and it wasn't pleasant.
Well, you're a badass. They're not going to
Oh.
touch you now, Dan.
yeah.
Yeah,
They are scared.
you're courageous. Oh, I'm glad you ended with that because I'm getting scared. I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to sleep again ever after all this.
It was a discussion about horror.
Exactly. No, it's good. I love it. Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
think it went really well. Well, that's brilliant. We're at the hour now, and
Oh, that was
fantastic.
quick.
So fast.
Thank you so much, guys. You gave us a perfect Quackcast for horror for the whole intro for that thing. So wow, brilliant. Thank you.
That was fun.
Yeah,
That did go
Yeah,
really
it was fun.
fast.
It did. I can't believe it. Yeah.
Dude, so there we are. Whoa, brilliant. So Quackcast 99 is in the bag.
Excellent.
Ways today.
I was thinking we should sing Sabotage.
No, I've done that numerous times. Because
She
I
got
have
out of
sang it on the but
No, you rocked. You were like a punk rock.